Hi guys, Stefan here again. I would like to know, what are some of your most watched movies? Not necessarily your favorite movies, although they could be, but the ones you just have continually watched over the years and they've never become boring to you. They're just something you can always kind of put in and enjoy. For instance, something like Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies of all time, but it's the kind of movie that I have to be in the right mood to enjoy, so it's not one that would be on this list, even though it's a favorite movie, because I don't watch it very frequently. The first of one of my most watched movies is definitely The Wizard of Oz. I haven't watched it in a couple years now, but as a kid, I was obsessed with this movie. I had all kinds of little action figures. One of my imaginary friends, I had a couple when I was a kid, and one of them would have been Dorothy Gale. I absolutely loved this movie. I occasionally watch the DVD now with all the special features. I really enjoy all the documentaries about the behind the scenes and the original versions until up to this movie and how it initially wasn't a success. It's just something that as a kid I really enjoyed and watched constantly, and now I watch it just because it's very nostalgic in a way. I don't enjoy it quite as much as I did as a kid, but it's something that brings back a lot of memories and is something I've watched probably 100 times over the years. Another one would be The Nightmare Before Christmas, and this movie I watch at least once a year. Since we got the VHS, I've watched it constantly. We watched it just about every Christmas growing up. We would watch it occasionally in the car. We had an old van with a VHS player with this tiny little screen facing the back seats, and we watch that occasionally. At least once a year I put that movie in. Another one I watch pretty frequently is a pretty terrible movie, honestly, but Hercules in New York with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I actually watch this more than some of his actual good movies like Terminator 1 and 2, just because for some reason I never get tired of the jokes in this. It's just so cheesy and so bad. It's one of those so bad it's good. If you've not seen that and you enjoy the sense of humor and the one-liners in a lot of Arnold's work, you're really gonna like that. It's a funny movie that I don't necessarily watch on my own very often, but it's a movie I will frequently put on to watch with friends, especially if you're drinking. That's a great movie. Speaking of Arnold, my most watched Arnold Schwarzenegger movie by far is Total Recall. I love this movie, just everything about it, and I don't know why. Same thing with a lot of these movies. For some reason, I never get tired of it. There are certain movies, especially with comedies, that even though they're very enjoyable and funny, something like Anchorman. I saw Anchorman 2, I don't know, maybe it was 3 times in theaters when it first came out, and watched it on DVD. And eventually, though, while I still really like that movie, I can't watch it very often because after a while the jokes aren't as funny when you know they're coming, when you have it memorized. There's a certain, even with some bigger budget action movies or great adventure movies, no matter how much I like them, certain movies I can't watch all the time. I just get tired of them. But some ones like that I just never grow tired of. And speaking of that, movies I've been watching since I was a kid, the old Peter Sellers Pink Panther movies. The ones without Peter Sellers aren't that great, but the true ones with Peter Sellers I've watched a lot over the years, and 3 in particular that I watched a lot of are Revenge of the Pink Panther, Pink Panther Strikes Again, and Return of the Pink Panther. The original one I enjoy, but for some reason I can't watch it as frequently, and Trail of the Pink Panther and Son of the Pink Panther are just kind of okay, and the non-Peter Sellers ones. But these 3, for some reason, I never get tired of. I've watched them, I can't even say, countless times, watching them growing up with my dad. These are his old VHS tapes, actually. I still watch them now pretty frequently. They're movies I can always put in for a good laugh, and they're the opposite of something like Anchorman or Step Brothers, something like that, that even though I've heard the jokes a million times and I can pretty much just regurgitate the entire movie, it's still funny to me for some reason, for some undefinable reason. I still really enjoy them. And another such comedy in a very different style would be Rush Hour. This is the first DVD I ever got. It's a little beat up on the side here. One of these old style with the terrible cardboard that falls apart over time. This was when I first got my PS2. I got a couple games, and I was very excited about DVDs. I really liked disc-based technology, and this was the first DVD I ever got, and that PS2 was the only DVD player at our house for years until I took it up to my room. My mom finally got DVDs, but yeah, this is special to me just because when I first got this in my PS2, I watched Rush Hour over and over and over again because it was the only DVD I had for a while, and I really enjoyed the movie. I just watched it constantly, and it's one I can put in occasionally and still enjoy. 2 and 3 are also good, but I can't watch those as often as the first one. For some reason, they just don't have quite as much of the lasting appeal for me over the years. And my most watched Jackie Chan movies in that same vein are definitely Police Story 1 and Police Story 2. And I can't even tell you how many times I've watched Police Story 1 and 2. I definitely enjoy, I like Super Cop and like New Police Story and like Final Strike and all those different ones, but for some reason Police Story 1 and 2 I cannot get tired of. That theme song I could listen to on repeat with Jackie Chan singing for hours. Like I sometimes actually put the soundtrack to Police Story 1 and 2 on when I'm writing. I just really enjoy those movies. I can, as far as action movies or action comedy type things, I can never get tired of those two. To me, they're just the perfect formula of a Jackie Chan movie. I never get tired of those movies. Two here that are my most watched. Really try to think about what do I think I've seen the most over and over again over the years. And I determined that these two are probably the ones I've seen the most over the years. One would be The Goonies. And I've watched this countless times growing up. It's just a great adventure tale that really shows kids in a more accurate light, with just the way they act and how they can be aware of very adult concepts and swear, and then 10 seconds later they're skipping and like really acting like kids, and it feels like a more accurate representation of kids the way they actually are than what we get, especially as we got into the 2000s. A lot of representations of kids. It's very, I don't know, it's very, very protective and innocent. It doesn't really show kids in accurate light. And just something about it, it just has a great fun adventure tale, and I can never get tired of it. It's a great movie to just be able to sit and relax and watch. And the number one most watched movie of all time for me, by a long shot, has to be A Shot in the Dark, the second Pink Panther movie starring Peter Sellers. A Shot in the Dark, I've watched hundreds of times. I can't even tell you. I've watched that at least 2 or 3 times a year since I was, I don't know, maybe 8 years old. I watch that movie constantly. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's my favorite comedy of all time. Something about that movie is just timeless and classic, and it never loses its appeal to me. So what are some of the most watched movies of all time for you? What are movies that for some reason or another you can't pin it down, they just never get old to you, whether it's a comedy movie or an action movie or a childhood favorite? What are some of the movies that to you are your personal most watched movies of all time?